It is onion harvesting day on the farm today, and so we are here to yoink out all of our onions. We have a couple hundred onions here to harvest, and so we're going to yoink these out of the ground today, and I'm going to sort of explain how to know when your onions are ready and the proper way to rack your onions for curing. You know your onions are ready to harvest when the greens have flopped over. You can see here we have onion greens flopping over. Because we have them so tightly packed in here, they're sort of flopping on each other, and it is making a bit of a mess. It is kind of hard to see from the other side of the garden, but as you can see, we've also got some flowers going on here, which is another indicator that these are ready to go. When it is time to harvest your onions, you're going to take them up out of the ground, and then you're going to transport them somewhere and cure them in a cool, dark area that has plenty of airflow. I myself am going to be taking my onions inside into my food processing room, where I have some racks waiting for them, where we will cut the greens down and we will hang these onions to dry, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. But first, we have to get them all up out of the ground. This is all the candy onions that we have. We are going to go rack these and see how much space we have left after we rack these, and then hopefully come back and get the Walla Wallas. There's all the Walla Wallas. Let's take them up and get them racked. Okay. What I've done here is I have brought the rack outside due to just space. I'm going to rack them here on the porch, where I can discard the greens that we'll cut off, and I'll show you what that is. And then once we get them all hung on this rack, then we'll move the rack inside into this room right here, where it has plenty of airflow and is much cooler than most of the other rooms. And there, these onions will hang for 2 to 3 weeks as they cure, very similar to the process of the garlic. Let's get these onions racked, and I'll show you how we do that. I'm going to wear gloves just so my hands don't smell terrible bad like onions for days, even though they probably will. And you need a pair of scissors, preferably a pair that you don't really care about, because they're going to smell like onions when you're done. When you're ready to rack your onions, you're going to pretty much do them one at a time, which is going to be the most tedious part about this whole thing. You want to hang your onion upside down, so what we're going to do is we're going to be threading it through the racks. I'm going to start from the top and work my way down, and what we're going to do is feed it in through the top, and then we know that we need to cut the greens to right about here. So we're going to be cutting all the greens off of every plant because it's done right now, it's fine. We're going to leave a majority of it on for the curing process, but right now, just for this process, we need to cut it so it has enough room. You see we're not cutting the entire neck off. We'll go back and do that later after these have cured. Right now we're just trimming the greens down so we have room on the racks for them. Then you just come up here and you want to just start with the edge, because you want to use as much space as possible. You need to utilize as much space. So you're going to run it through the rack and upside down like that, and snug it up into the corner. Then we're just going to repeat that process and fill all of these shelves. You are not going to be using these greens after you're done curing your onions, so it's okay if they get a little smashed up going in here. You just need to remember that you really need to pack them in, because you're trying to take up as little space as possible with each one. Obviously, I'm leaving room here because we want to be aware that there is a bulb going to be here. So like this one is probably a little too long. I'll turn them down. Just remember, you want to get them really packed in there. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be functional. I don't exactly love the onion grain pile that's accumulating here beneath my feet, but it's what it is. Onions have been racked. We are now going to let them sit on this rack for about 2 weeks like this. We can use them in the meantime while they are curing. Curing just means that it's going to dry out. They need to dry because they're still considered a wet onion at this point, so they just need to dry and develop a nice paper skin on them, and the greens can die back. Once your onion is cured, it has a very long shelf life. You're looking at pretty much all through the winter we'll be able to use these onions. But that is how you rack and cure onions. You want to make sure that wherever you rack your onions, you do it somewhere that has that is cool and has plenty of airflow. So last year, if you were with us, you know that we racked our onions in the greenhouse, and I didn't do that this year because we're just smarter. So this year we're trying it differently, and I am racking it on these racks, and we are going to leave it here in this room that they are in because it has plenty of airflow and it doesn't get too hot. They'll stay in this room on this rack just like this for about 2 weeks, and then at which point I will move them into the food storage area for the remainder of the winter. And that is how you rack and cure your onions. If you have any questions about racking and curing onions, just drop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer those questions. And in the meantime, thanks for coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Happy gardening.